Cedar Creek Plantation is a beautiful, well-managed tree farm. It's located in Butler County in south-central Alabama. This property contains a diverse mix of forests growing on typical terrain features and soil types of the Gulf Coastal Plain and the Alabama Black Belt. John Boutwell, who is the brother of Peggy Autrey of this two-ownership property, shares with us the early purchase history of Cedar Creek Plantation.
The core of it was bought, was traded for by Peggy and my granddaddy back about 1935, mid-30s. And he had some timberland in Lowndes County that was mostly timbered, and he wanted some open land. So he worked it out with a timber dealer to trade his timbered property for this property, and the timber dealer had a right to cut the timber on this property for, I think, 6 years.
John further explains the management strategy for the property.
There's a lot of diversity on the place. Some of the soil types won't grow a pine tree. Some of them won't even grow a hardwood tree. They just grow cedars. It's rock outcropping. And you kind of have to go with the soil type as to what'll grow there. And that's kind of what we've done.
Peggy listens intently to the management conversation and makes this statement.
Well, I'd just like to add that I am very fortunate to have a brother who's managing my part that knows what he's doing.
That's right. That's right.
Not many people would be that fortunate.
John explains the history and management decisions made to this 25-year-old pine plantation on a very fertile forest site.
Doug, it was planted around 1986, last plantation my father planted, and he died a couple of years later, but I thinned it in about 2000. They were 13, 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been burned several times.
I can tell that.
We've done some herbicide work in here to keep the weeds down. We actually like to shoot quail in here, do a release hunt, and so we had to keep the weeds down.
Well, that looks ideal for that. Choosing high site index pine soils in an area that is mixed with black belt lime rock outcrops and prairie soils, this forest manager definitely made the right decision.
Doug, this was a big open field back here, and we decided we wanted to try to grow some pines in it. By looking at a soil map, we decided to pick out some of the better soils that would grow a pine tree, and we had to avoid some of the black belt soils that wouldn't. This was planted about 11 years ago, back last fall. It's been a little over a year now. I came in and did third row thinning on it.
Okay.
And just wanted to try it one time. I had never tried third row thinning, to open it up at a very early age. That's probably 3 or 4 years earlier than we normally thin a plantation. But came in, opened it up. We actually cut about a little over 20 tons per acre out of here, which meant it had grown 60 tons total. And that would be about 6 tons an acre a year, which is pretty good growth on
2 cords plus.
And but anyway, something I wanted to try. I think it's going to do good. The pine trees that I've seen always take off after you thin them. Plantation, you'll get a whole lot more growth after you get a little open air and sunshine.
Straddling Cedar Creek Plantation is well blessed with an abundance of water. It is also the watershed for a number of clear-running streams, with shoals and small waterfalls at various locations interspersed across the property. Wildlife green fields are interspersed in strategic locations to provide food for local wildlife populations, as well as give the hunter a better opportunity to harvest the game of choice. Limited agriculture on the property is also of great benefit. Lumber that was milled from hurricane and pine beetle damaged trees right here on the property was utilized to build the family cabin next to one of the beautiful streams. Just as you would find on many tree farms, it has become the center for recreational activity. The limestone bluffs and outcrops produce an abundance of fossils, as John explains.
65, 85 million years ago, all this was underwater. And we just have a big time finding fossils in the creek, and they've got embedded in this limestone, and they're basically limestone fossils. And
most of them marine?
Yeah, they were all marine type fossils. Have some ammonites and oyster shells that have fossilized.
65 to 75-year-old hardwood and mixed hardwood stands add a beautiful and valuable touch to the plantation.
We've got these hardwood heads scattered all through the place. This one is coming off of a little branch that runs into a pond down here. But, you know, it's probably, a couple of 100 yards wide and just mainly a drainage basin, but we pretty well stayed out of it. This stuff is 65, 75 years old. We've had some damage. We got a tree here that's down. I'm sure Ivan blew that one over, but there's some other trees down here. But you know, my plan is just to leave this stuff alone. This is part of it, that some old growth or close to old growth stuff as we've got, and these hardwoods aren't going to die. So I'm going to save them to deer hunt in and watch them a while. One of my biggest problems, Doug, is to get my lovely wife to have a long-term vision. When I do any kind of harvest, it's ugly, and you know good and well, it is ugly. But she can't see that 3 years down the road, this forest trash is going to be rotted down, and there are going to be trees going.
I'm more impatient, you might say. You know, prior to Ivan coming through, this place was really beautiful. We had old tree stands, you know, beautiful
hardwoods, pine.
It was just really a beautiful place, and Ivan did such tremendous damage, and I think a lot of the big trees that are dying off now is a result, even though they didn't die at the time that Ivan came through, it damaged them without us knowing it. And then with the droughts that we've had, you know, and so they're not living as long as they would have. But yeah, I think I worry more about the aesthetics and all than John does sometimes. But and I understand it has to be done, especially when you have, you know, pine beetle and that kind of thing. But I am impatient with it.
Old growth pine stands still dominate Cedar Creek Plantation in some locations.
John, I just want you to know that you have the most diverse property here, from old growth pine like this and that old growth pine hardwood stand we were in, mostly hardwood, and just every age class imaginable of pine, and interspersed with these areas of mixed hardwood. And this is the most diverse tract, I think, of this size that I've ever been on in my career. And I want you to know I appreciate the way you've laid it out and managed it over the years.
I certainly hope you've enjoyed your visit to Cedar Creek Plantation Tree Farm. Visiting with John and Ann and Peggy, it's a great place. With all its natural beauty and intriguing geologic features, wouldn't you like to visit there?